Wonder podcast, where we do a deep dive into the minds of forward-thinking leaders, trailblazers, and innovators reshaping the future of work. Our goal is to explore the stories, struggles, and triumphs that define their journeys while tackling the big questions about where technology, humanity, and ambition intersect. We're lucky today to have with us the CEO of Oomiji, Jon Stamell. Thank you for joining us. It is an absolute pleasure to have you with us today.
It's great to be here.
So let's just start with a really simple question, level set for the audience. Tell us about you, your experiences, and your current role so we can kind of set the scene. What drives your passion in the work that you do?
Okay. Well, I owned an advertising agency, PR, direct response, for about 25 years. And we had a lot of national, international clients, and they would often ask for market research studies. Market researchers would come to us and give us their reports. And I would always ask the same two questions. The first question being, you've told us what this group believes. You haven't told us why they believe it. And they'd say, well, we'd have to ask open-ended questions. And then we're going to get all of this conversational text. And we really don't have the ability to deal with that. The second question I would ask was, did you append any data to respondents' files so that our clients could message them, could ask them more questions, and they would say, no, because we're not a database company, we're a market research company. So I always thought, why can't we merge the two? Because in advertising, it's the why that you need to know to really make an impact on people. And it's the same thing with any kind of content that you're sending people, or if you're sending them emails or whatever. You need to understand why they believe what they do. And that's kind of been a passion of mine. And I will say that my father was one of the first child psychiatrists in the US. In fact, he helped develop child psychiatry with Freud's granddaughter. And
that's cool.
He was always asking me why. And I think that had an impact.
So that's super interesting. And it feels like if we think about where work has gone over the last 10, 20, 50 years, we've seen the importance of the people aspect, right? Like that it's more than just transactional, that has been a call for people for companies and leaders to understand, why do our employees feel like this? Why do our customers, what is it that's actually driving and motivating them? Which is cool that you mentioned psychology, because I think that cognitive sciences are really impactful and are going to be part of what shapes the future of work today. If I were to ask you, like thinking about kind of where you started off in the advertising agency to where you guys are and the clients that you're serving today, what do you think are some of the areas that are ripe for disruption, that if we look at AI as an opportunity for change, what are some areas, right? Kind of looking at the merging of people and technology, what are some areas that you think are ripe for disruption?
Well, let's put AI on the side for just a moment. One of the things that you mentioned were transactions. And I think part of the problem today is that we've become too focused on transactions. And what we need are relationships. In fact, I think we're at a tipping point where relationships are going to create transactions, not the other way around. Let me ask each of you, how many emails are sent every day around the world?
Oh,
what's your guess?
Millions, if not billions.
Millions, billions, who knows? I mean, a lot of wasted time and energy.
In 2024, it was 350 billion emails sent every day.
Every day?
Every day. And that's expected to go to 375 or more this year. And when we looked at how people look at their emails and what they do, they pick up whether it's an iPhone or other. And this is what I do every morning at 7 a.m. I pick up my iPhone, and I click that little edit button because I've probably gotten 100 emails already, and I go delete, delete, delete. Oh, that's from a trusted source. Delete, delete, delete. I know that person. And you go through that, and before you know it, 100 emails become somewhere between 5 and 10 that you're actually going to keep, and you're going to do something about it. Now, when you mention AI, what AI can do is that's where we can start to talk to people about their interests, their perceptions, what they think of a brand, what they think of an organization's communications, and that what their motivations are, and also what they aspire to in the future. And AI can, and this is what it does on our platform, it categorizes the textual responses that people give to questions. In a way, what our platform is it's a merging of market research and email marketing. But the relationship begins first. And then you have the transactions, which can come later.
I love that thinking, and I'm so aligned with it. And I when you were talking, there was one thing that I loved that you said, which was the word aspire. That kind of brought some curiosity in me about what do you really mean when you think of aspire? Because in normal work practices today, it's all about getting things done. It's not talking about what would be the feel good future. Tell me what you're thinking about that.
Well, let's just take, because I want to put this in a product reference, because how would somebody actually use that kind of information? So let's talk about running shoes for a moment. A couple months ago, I bought a new pair of Hoka running shoes. And for the next 2 weeks, when I opened up the New York Times website, I see an ad for Hoka running shoes, the same ones that I bought. Now, that's retargeting based on what I bought, but it's just giving me exactly what the action I already did. Now, if you take that interest, that obviously I had an interest in running, if that company had then sent me a question and said, I see that you bought some running shoes. Can you tell us about your running habits? Where do you run? What kind of runner are you? More in a conversational way without selling me anything. And why do I run? Think about the information that they would get from me that they could then use, not to sell me another pair of Hokas, but to sell me all kinds of clothing if I want, courses, education. I mean, there are all kinds of things that come out of that because we've begun to establish a relationship and they've begun to create themselves as a trusted source.
And so when you think about those things, when you think about the information that you're collecting from your clients, the relationship that you're building with them, from a organizational standpoint, you have a set of employees that are also looking at the same information and doing that. They're interacting with AI. They're using tech. I'm curious, as you know, everybody's all hot about AI right now, but as you look back through your career and to get to today, how have you seen the skill set of the employees that you want to hire or you think are going to be the value add for the team? How have you seen that skill set change as the technology has changed, as the type of data we collect has changed, and the insights that you're looking for your employees to surface?
There have been changes in the skill set, certainly to more technical skills and more skills using and analyzing data and that kind of thing. But I also think that there has been, and this may fit along with the growth in transactions, I think there's more fear in the marketplace. I think there's less empathy in the marketplace, within companies, I should say. And so I think that all of those technical skill sets become better when there is more empathy, more goodwill in the workplace. Because it's creating relationships. It's not just I'm a robot sitting at my desk doing work or asking another robot AI to do something for me. It's understanding having a relationship with the people around me, with the people I report to reach a higher level goal.
So you bring up something around fear, right? And the trying to machine the people, so to speak, but now we're at the place where we've got machines who can do some of the machine work that we've been trying to get humans to do. But it does feel like there's a lot of fear in the marketplace, whether it was from after the pandemic, whether it was, is AI going to take over the world or take over human jobs? I think some of them, but some of them we probably really want them to, right? But it feels like there's this missing piece of trust, right? That fear has replaced what used to be me and you and my colleagues and me and my customers relationship or my team members relationship. So I feel that, I guess I just concur with you that I feel that that fear has come in the marketplace. What do you think when we're looking at, changes for the future of work, knowing that each of us are wired for, we want a purpose, we want to feel good, we want to feel like we're contributing to the work. What do you see are some of the people problems that, like you mentioned, relationships, by increasing your relationship skills could be solved? And what are your thoughts just overall about trust in the workplace?
Well, I think one thing that the employee needs to do is to make sure that their personal goals are aligned with the company's goals. And the employer has the same responsibility to ensure that. And I think right off, if you can do that, you're going to have a better relationship and a better employee workplace there. So I think that is one big key to it.
And so when you think about that and the evolution of the workplace, and then on top of that, having to put in play change initiatives, right? Because everything you're doing to upscale a business or grow it, expand it into new markets, whatever it may be, there's often big, the impact on the employees is, oh no, here comes more change, right? Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, oh, I would love some catastrophic change in my life today. And so when you think about that in the workplace, what are the things that you have found to be successful in your career to help increase adoption and make sure you're not negatively impacting morale or performance as you've gone through change initiatives throughout your career?
Well, I think two things. I think one is what's the why behind the change? Because if we understand the why, I think we're more willing to accept it. And it's another reinforcement that personal values can be aligned with the company's values. And the other is I think that employers should have fun with their employees and back and forth. You need to have, it's that water cooler talk.
Yeah.
And that's harder and harder to do when you're communicating online. I had a Zoom meeting yesterday with an employee that's in Mexico. And we had some very specific things we had to accomplish, but we spent 20 minutes talking about our different views of religion and how we were impacted growing up. So what's the result of that? We got to know each other better. She understood a little bit where I come from to how I think about the work that we're doing. And hopefully she becomes a little bit more motivated, more trusting, and we can talk more candidly about what goes well and what doesn't go well.
Well, one, I applaud you for having the religion conversation at work, right? That's the taboo. But I kind of feel like we live in this world of all the what you should and shouldn't do at work, to the point of we've like almost eliminated the human, like all of our human skills, all the things that make us like, the juicy creatures that make up human beings. But I think that it's really interesting that you went there, because if we look at our human operating system, right, we all have a way that we have patterns that are going on inside of us that we're not even aware of, right? But they're led by the subconscious. And it's we're not aware of them. They're just in the backdrop of our minds, but it's actually your belief systems that propel a lot of it. Now, some people have a very tight connection to religion. Some people have very tight connections to many other things, right? There's not just one. But I think that's interesting that you went there, because in work today, when I think about where we want to go, is some of it is bringing back, allowing people to have beliefs, and that everybody doesn't have to have the same belief. What's more important is that you can figure out how my belief aligns with yours, John, or with yours, Chad, in my own terms, so that my subconscious can then redirect us together, building that trust, rather than feeling like I'm not sure if I can trust him or not. So therefore it might not be safe. And my subconscious is directing me away from what I actually think I want, but it's saying that isn't in alignment with what I actually believe or want. So I think that's a really important point, that we have to remember that, all of the human side of work is that we are all operating on the things that we see as most important to us, even though our companies would love for us to and have tried for the last couple decades to say, this is what should be most important to you. It's like a lot more work can get done and a lot more camaraderie and trust can be built when we do allow ourselves to be empathetic to, hey, here's just kind of where I come from. That's where you're come from. Let's drop the judgments and just be open to accepting, maybe not everything. Some stuff won't feel good, but really just starting to open up the conversations again, to remember that we're holistic beings. We're not just work machines.
I think that's right. And I think it has a big payoff in work as well. And I would add to that having a sense of humor. I think work can be so stressful in such a tense place. And I think you need to be able to laugh as well. Now, that's easy for me to say, having worked at an advertising agency or own an advertising agency, because there's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of laughter. But I really believe that can be true in any business. And we have clients we tend to focus on what I would call aspirational luxury products, but we have Zoom meetings all the time with people that are in wine and spirits business or other luxury businesses. And, it's great to have a joke. It's always fun to see people smile and laugh a little bit.
Well, so having fun is important, right? That fun piece. And I think with the trust, in addition to that, it's all about cohesion, right? How do you create a collective of human beings focused on a common goal, and then manage that to its optimal outcome, so it drives the type of results you want, not only for the business, but for the individual's personal goals as well. And I think that's one of the big keys in terms of helping with organizations that are doing change initiatives. I shouldn't say always. You typically will have some individuals that are resistant to change in their organization for their own personal reasons, past experiences, whatever it may be. And from your experience, beyond that sense of humor, beyond that sense of trust, are there other ways you've been effective throughout your career in helping people get over that change fatigue or resistance to change, to be successful in adopting or adapting to change to achieve kind of the next levels of growth in an organization?
Well, I'm going to talk about another thing that AI doesn't cover right now, and I know you want to talk a lot more about AI, but I think mentoring. I think that if whoever is above you has a position as a mentor, then I think that creates, again, more trust in the workplace, more acceptance in the workplace. So I think mentoring is very important. The other thing is encouraging people to ask questions. And what most people need to realize is that the person who's asking the questions is in control of the conversation. So if you're terrified talking to your boss or whatever, start asking questions, because that's how you get control. And the best two questions are why and how do you know?
Oh, I like the how do you know?
I was going to say, yeah, I use the question a lot. What did your customers say when you talk to them? Everyone just gets quiet and is like, oh, we talked about it a lot internally. So to bring in AI, right? Let's think about what would be something, if you were just to go to a chatbot, what would be a good question for that I could type into a chatbot to help myself, to say, how can I bring humor to, I'm not sure, like think about what's a question you could ask a chatbot to get some advice so people listening could make it personal for themselves.
I haven't, I'm going to, when we're done, I'm going to do that. But I haven't done that, but I did have an experience last week with a chatbot called Bordy, Boardy. And if you go on LinkedIn and you look up Bordy, and you give Bordy your phone number, Bordy will call you, and then you can have a conversation with Bordy. And
Conversational AI.
you can have an in-depth conversation with Bordy as well. So I encourage you to do that. Now, a lot of what Bordy does is it says, or he says back to you in different, just almost better language than of what you just said.
Ooh, so that could be what you were just talking about, asking questions. That could be, Bordy could be a way for people to practice putting on their curiosity mindset and coming from a place of wonder rather than coming from a place of, I have to know everything, which is a really big shift in the marketplace today.
Yeah. So a typical response would be, or a conversation might be, Bordy, I really feel that there needs to be more empathy in the in business. And Bordy will say back to you, you know, John, that's a really interesting point you made about the need for more empathy. Why do you think that? So it's just giving you that back, and I think that's a lot of the um, uh, the future of where chatbots are going to go is to show more empathy themselves, more relationship building skills. I think that on the positive side, I think there'll be some negative uses of it as well. But
I mean, I think I'm the believer of, yeah, that there could be negative, but it's really going to be about the humans who are right expanding the technology. So if you're have bad intentions, yes, bad things could happen, but you can also use it as, even as the chatbots grow and become more empathetic. Like, I use it a lot for being able to ask I'm really deep in a thought and I ask it to, you know, what would be the next step here? Or what do you think of this? And does this seem correct? And I've really found that it's kind of nice because even though chatbots are creating empathy, they're really they don't have any judgment, right? Unlike all of us three who have beliefs in our subconscious, right? Or everyone else, the chatbots don't. So it does become almost a research buddy or an individual growth therapist, so to speak, on whatever topic you want, where it can become a tool. Chatbots can be a great tool for you rather than simply trying to only look at work stuff, but trying to make some movements around how do I improve my human skills? How do I practice? And especially now that a lot of them have the voice text conversations, it's pretty darn cool.
I was in a meeting this morning with a group that it's an organization I'm a member of, and it was about uses of AI, and there was some discussion of what kinds of jobs will flourish in the future. And so one person he called it a promptologist, as opposed to proctologist. But after the meeting, I went on chat and I said, what would be a good prompt for me to use with an AI platform if I wanted to analyze a database from a market research study? Okay, not something that everyone might have. The AI gave me a prompt that was better than I ever would have given it.
Right? Like, that's it. Like, you can literally ask the chatbots anything and they'll help you get more efficient. So instead of wasting your own time, you can be like, help me think of this. Okay, help me redefine this, which I think is really, really awesome.
But that said, to me, I don't think the future is in writing prompts. I think right now there is some need for editing. I think everyone's over relying on it for writing. You can still tell when AI has written something. And my son is a tutor, and his students will use AI all the time. He catches them all the time because there are just certain words that they don't use, that they don't have. And so, but that's going to get better. And I think that is something that is of concern when you think about education as well. So a lot of it is, what are the correct uses of AI? How can you use it to become smarter, to become more creative as well?
Well, and really understand that balance, right? The balance between what it is you're bringing to the tech and what the tech can give you back. Because there are certain things that it's going to be better at. There are things you're going to be better at: creativity, innovation, those types of skill sets. And as you see, the influx of AI into the workspace, the transactional stuff has a tendency to get automated, right? That's the easy, let's spin the wheel faster. And, everybody loves that. But then that creates this space where your employees are going to have to kind of up level their human skills. And I'm curious, as you think about your business in particular, especially advertising, what impacts are you expecting, have you seen, or are you expecting from an AI standpoint? And how does that change the way you work with your employees to get the best out of them and make sure that they're, fully formed in terms of the business vision?
Well, one, remember, I'm not in advertising anymore. Basically, what we're in is collecting consumer insights for brands and then being able to activate them. But what we've seen is the ability of technology to conduct one-to-one marketing at scale, true one-to-one marketing at scale. And that's not, we know what you bought, we know where you live, we know what kind of car you have. This is, what do you want today from us, from our brand, our company, and what would you like to see tomorrow? We've just gone through, a never-ending political campaign, which, is a thing we go through every 4 years, if not more frequent. And everyone has received an email saying, I've got some questions for you. And I've not seen a single one of those where at the end of it, they don't ask for money.
Right.
And if a candidate, and actually I know this for a fact because we originally started to develop our technology years ago, and one of our first clients was Howard Dean's presidential campaign. And if you recall, his was the first campaign that raised money over the internet. And they came to us. We knew some people there, and they said, all these people have given once, but they haven't given again. And we don't know why. Can you tell us? So they gave us around 100,000 emails, which around 25% of them were bad. That's very common. And we asked just a very few questions. And one of them was, you gave once, why haven't you given again? And what came back was, because you always ask for money, you never ask for our opinion. There's an old adage which says, ask someone for money and they give you advice. Ask them for advice and they'll give you money. So I think the key is, both for political campaigns and nonprofits and any brand where consumers get involved with the brand, is to ask for advice. It's to ask for what they think. You don't need to ask them to buy right now. You'll be able to do that. And so those are some of the things that we've installed on our platform.
So, okay, when you think about your platform and you think about the incorporation of AI, you mentioned one-on-one marketing research at scale. Have you deployed conversational AI into the platform to have people have conversations with the AI? And what's that look like? I'm really curious.
We haven't yet, but it's on our list.
So that's part of the roadmap.
That's part of the vision. Part of the roadmap is to be able to respond directly with AI based on what people have told you, not based on old information, and then also to enable marketers to go onto the platform and see, here are your best customers, and here's what they talk about, and here's what you should say. Now, we will have part of that within 2 weeks, where you'll come onto the platform and you'll immediately see a chart is, here's how many of your customers are happy, here's how many are unhappy, and here's how many are ambivalent, and here's what they talk about. So that's coming now. The response part is now is a little bit later, is coming. But we're trying to be very.
So that's part of the roadmap going forward, right? So the vision. So when you think of the vision, the big wins for you in 25, 26, this is what we want to do for the business, how we're going to evolve. What are those targets for you?
Well, I would love to have and we've talked about this in different ways. What I described as boardy, we'd like to have a boardy type function on the platform so that instead of people answering a few questions and writing them down, they can just talk and we can pick that up. I'd like to have the well-written responses to different categories of customers. And I think those are the immediate things that we want to get going. One of the things, I'm sure you're familiar with Net Promoter Scores, and which is usually used as an index. And so how did we do January, February, March, whatever, by quarter? And what were the reasons? What did people say? And that's what you typically get out of Net Promoter Scores. What we've done, because we can append language and categorize language to people's database files, is we've turned it into an engagement tool. So we had a client say, we've never used Net Promoter Scores before. And by the way, we're looking for brand ambassadors among our consumer customers. So they did the Net Promoter Score. They got a 72, which is very high, and that's remained consistent. And the language that people use has all been categorized and appended. We had a meeting with them. We looked at some of the categories, and then I noticed people use the word love a lot. I really love your product. And I said, if somebody got a 9 or a 10 on the Net Promoter Score, and they also use the word love in their language response, that should be a good candidate to be a brand ambassador. So let's create that segment. So we created that segment, and I think there were 76 people that told them how much they loved their product and gave them the highest rating. So I said, save the segment. So now you've got all their emails. Write them an email and tell them about your brand ambassador program and see if they want to become a part of that. And within a week, more than 50 people said, yes, I absolutely do.
Nice.
Now, where AI might be injected into that, in addition to the analytics on the language, would also be to, here's a program that we have, and based on what you said, your specific response, whatever that is, we think you'd be a great candidate. You'd be interested in that. So you can do that. What they're doing is really creating a segment that the AI helped them create, and then writing a response to all of those people. So it is specific in that it's to their interests and what they said, but it's not to that. It doesn't go deeper than that.
So let me ask you this too, then. If you were to, because that's such a win for your client, and it feels like an obvious connection, right? But if you were to think about what are some of the challenges you have that you are encountering if you look at getting well-written responses, right? Or getting a boardy type function on your platform. What are some of the big challenges that you guys are having internally? And are you using AI at all to help with those?
Well, no, I don't think it's AI. I have to think about that a little bit more. But it's really more resources.
Okay.
Do we have the resources to grow? Mm-hmm. Do we have the resources to hire more people? That's one of for a startup business, it's a nice thing because AI does help you not have to do that much hiring. But so resources are one of them. The other is compartmentalization. When you talk to people and you tell them what your platform does, if I happen to mention, you can email content, then what comes up in their mind is the whole email compartment. So, that's MailChimp and SendGrid and all of those kinds of things. If I mention the ability to query your customers and get closed or open-ended, now, you mean SurveyMonkey? So you get compartmentalized there. Do you know the old story of the three blind men and the elephant?
Not off the top of my head, no.
They talk about it in business schools a lot. An elephant walks into a room. There are three blind men there, and the question is, well, what is it? What came in the room? And so one of the blind men goes and he wraps his arms around a leg, and he says, I know what this is. It's a tree. And the other one gets hit by the trunk and grabs the trunk and says, I know what this is. This is a snake. and the other one gets swished by the tail and grabs the tail and says, "Oh no, this is a paintbrush." So our problem is basically we need to define the elephant, that it's category design. It's something that everyone is coming to, but we haven't defined exactly what it is yet.
That's really good. And I actually feel like in general, the marketplace is looking at that as we've divided so much and truncated work that we actually are at a place of everything needs to come back together. And I know Chad and I are about that when we talk about like left brain, right brain thinking. We're a very left brain society that is analytical and goes very macro and has things categorized, which led to processes and standardization and efficiency. But we're actually at the place where we now need to look at the bigger picture and be like, are we actually being more efficient keeping them all separately, and instead use our right brain to look at the holistic picture and see different opportunities that we hadn't when we're only focused on the little stuff.
I think that's where the human element comes in, because
the human element, exactly.
AI is a tactic, at least right now. It's a tool. It's not an end in itself. It's a means to an end. And so the ability to think strategically and define strategy, that's a human element right now.
What are a couple more things? That was going to be one of my questions. My last questions for you is, I was going to say, what are some of the top 3 skills that you feel people should be working on developing to remain relevant and impactful in their careers as we embrace this change that's happening?
Well, I think understanding what strategy is and how to use it in your job is really important. And before doing what I'm doing right now, I was doing a lot of CEO and CMO coaching, and would ask, "What's your strategy?" And somebody would give me back a tactic. So I think it's understanding that strategy is direction and tactics are action. And then what does that mean in real life? And if you can make that delineation by itself, I think everything else you do is going to improve. But it gets back to the why again, which is really where strategy is. So to me, I think that's the biggest thing. And then I think, and again, I'm going to go to human skills. I think it is important to know what AI does, but it's not, if you look at my bookmarks, I've got like 7 or 8 different AI platforms there. Okay. And you probably do too. But that's not how the rest of the world works. They're just, our clients, they're hearing about AI. They may be starting to use it, but they're not obsessed with it. It's not a big part of their day. And so I think it's also, so where does AI fit into your business and how can you use it?
Yeah. And what skills do you think, so you said strategic thinking and the why. I like those. So understanding your why or your purpose. Those are really good. Chad, what would you say are the 3 skills that you think people need to continue develop after our conversation? What do you think that people need to develop?
I'm a little biased based on my experience, but I would say we need to see a drastic increase in people's ability to apply critical thinking. We also need an increase in people's ability to be creative or understand what they can bring to the table that may not feel creative to them, but is creative to the context that they're operating in, right? So increasing that creativity. And I think there needs to be a big increase in just cognitive flexibility, like not as much rigidness, because the speed at which AI is changing, the speed at which it is being introduced into the world, some people, it's not obsessed with it. We're the early adopters. We get that, right? But it is going to impact a lot of people, and the speed at which it's going to happen, I think, is going to be a little jarring for some. So that ability to be a little bit more cognitively flexible and find ways or tools that allow you to effectively surf the waves of change, as we like to say, I think are going to be important for businesses kind of moving forward. With that, just out of respect for time and everything, just one last question for you. If you were to think about the future of work, let's say 2 years away, 3 years away, and AI has become even more prevalent, how would you describe what the future of work is going to look like in just 2 sentences, 2 or 3 sentences? What do you think the future of work is going to be?
I hope it becomes more empathetic and creative um, and workplaces become healthier.
Oh, that's a good one. I love that. I love that. Jon, really appreciate you coming on as a guest. Is there anything, if our guests are interested in learning more about what you're doing and how you're helping your clients, where would you like us to send them?
Well, they should go to oomiji.com, OOMIJI.com, and they can always reach us at info@oomiji.com. Oomiji.com may become oomiji.ai in the near future, so keep that in mind as well.
Awesome. Jon, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. It's been an excellent conversation. Look forward to staying in touch as we move into the future.
Great. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.